Hey guys, Ryan Deshane here from Wired to Fish, and I want to talk a little bit about retention devices for soft baits. Now, as many of us know, soft baits are an excellent way to deliver an ultra-realistic looking lure to fish. And a couple soft plastic rigging systems that are very common are Neko rigging and Wacky rigging. Specifically, I want to address putting a rubberized ring around the soft bait as a means to keep the bait on the hook. This does a few things. Number one, it reduces the amount of plastic we put in our waterways. We're all stewards of the resource and we want to keep it in great shape. Number two, you want to reduce the amount of plastics you use, so you're saving money. And number three, you want a bait on the hook at all times, so you actually have a lure down there in front of the fish that they want to eat. I'm going to walk through a few different ways to rig an O-ring on your soft baits to reduce the amount of plastics that fall off the hook. First off, you might ask, what is an O-ring? Well, bass anglers back in the day were fairly inventive, and they went to their hardware shops and actually got automotive O-rings. And this is still a good viable system. You can see I got a lot of different sizes on here, and you can see it has a hole in the middle. It's rubberized, and I can thread a piece of plastic through here. And you can also get these at tackle shops now. This is a simple O-ring tool, and all you're trying to do is to get that O-ring sized appropriately for the diameter bait you're fishing, and then threading your hook through it. What I'm doing is I'm putting my pressure or stress against that O-ring, and then that O-ring is hugging the plastic, and it just helps keep that plastic on the hook better without tearing the plastic off of the actual hook. Your goal is to put a ring on that snugly holds the bait. If it's too loose, you're going to lose the bait and the O-ring into the water. Carrying a wide variety of O-rings is smart practice, especially if you like to experiment with different baits, and that's a lot of the fun of finesse fishing. You just need to have the O-rings to fit the baits. There's also some innovative products out there. Surgical tubing actually increases the surface area on the bait. You can see here, this is a VMC crossover ring. I like to carry a wide variety of sizes. Again, the goal is to get a good firm seating of that O-ring. Now this is a unique pliers here. There's some different ones on the market. When I squeeze it, it actually expands that O-ring. This is a trick worm, and now a conventional O-ring, the most standard size, is too large for a bait like this. And this is an extremely popular bait for Wacky rigging or Neko rigging. So I open that pliers up, slide that worm on, and this is a 4mm O-ring. I picked a white worm so you guys can clearly see it. That's a nice tight squeeze on that worm. And I have more surface area with that surgical tubing style ring than I would with just a ring. That's going to help reduce the actual ring from cutting. If it's an O-ring, if I set the hook and that bait's in a fish's mouth, I run the risk of actually sawing that bait in half. So I like this style a lot. The other unique thing about this particular O-ring is the ability to just run the hook actually through a cross channel of that O-ring, so I'm not tearing the bait at all. The other most common setup is just a simple O-ring tool. I got a couple of them here. This is a simple fixed one, so I can buy my resupply of O-rings, just slide them down and over, and then they stack up down here. All you need to do with this style is grab your soft bait, slide it into the hole, and then simply take that O-ring down from the bottom, slide it up here and onto the plastic. So with this conventional O-ring, you can see that's about the perfect size for this bait. If I'm gonna Neko rig it, I'm just gonna run that hook point into the plastic just a little bit and up the other side of that O-ring. And you can see, it really helps keep that hook in contact with that plastic. And because there's not a lot of play here, a fish grabs at it, pulls on it, I'm not tearing that plastic off. I can also run it through perpendicular for a Wacky rig. You can even run 2 O-rings if you want to increase the surface area, and you cross the O-rings over the top of each other like that, and then run the hook through it if you're going to be Wacky rigging. So that gives you the support of 2 O-rings. It also keeps your hook oriented nice and perpendicular like that. So there's some rigging specifics there. The main thing, choose an O-ring that firmly holds that plastic. It's snug around the body, and that's going to prevent that O-ring and hook coming undone from the plastic. It's also going to reduce that plastic from tearing off the hook. Another option is choosing a plastic that's inherently durable, like a TPE plastic or a rubber. It's essentially a rubber type compound available from a wide range of manufacturers, and the stuff is really strong. I mean, look at that. A common practice with this style of plastic is to double thread it. I could use an O-ring on here, and I will, but you can also do a light thread and then do a little double thread. So I've essentially double threaded that hook on there. So this is a great material when you're maybe on a really good bite, the fish are hot, you don't want to take the time to put new plastics on, and it approaches the effectiveness of an O-ring in a lot of cases, especially if you hook the bait a little bit deeper like I have here. Less plastic in our waters, more fish catching throughout the day, less money wasted on baits.